Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Erin Viner.
And I'm Rebecca Rand.
In our top story, the United States has fully reinstated crippling sanctions against Iran. All penalties that were lifted as part of the Obama-brokered nuclear deal have been reinforced, and the Trump administration has added 700 businesses and individuals to the blacklist. Iran remained defiant as it braced for the impact of being shut out of the world's largest economy. The Revolutionary Guard Corps held military exercises, and President Hassan Rouhani warned that the country is facing a war situation. The White House says that it will only relent if Iran radically alters its behavior. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo laid out 12 demands that Iran must meet if it wants any sanctions relief. These include the abandonment of its ballistic missile program, which threatens the entire Middle East, the cessation of terror, and its military entrenchment in Syria. Pompeo said our ultimate goal is to compel Iran to permanently abandon its well-documented outlaw activities and behave as a normal country. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised President Trump for reinstating the harsh sanctions, saying that it was a courageous, determined, and important decision that he believes will contribute to stability, security, and peace.
The State of Israel congratulated America on the midterm election results. Jerusalem congratulated both parties on the midterm elections and conveyed the desire for bipartisan support from the Democratic majority in the House and Republican majority in the Senate. Israel expressed its hope and optimism for future cooperation from its greatest ally and friend, the United States of America.
Brazil's newly elected president announced that he is considering the relocation of his country's embassy to Jerusalem. In a display of the increasing influence of evangelical Christians in Latin America, Brazil may be the next to follow Guatemala and the U.S. to the undivided capital of the Jewish state. President-elect Jair Bolsonaro said that his country recognizes that Israel is a sovereign nation with the authority to decide its own capital. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed the development, saying that the moving of the Brazilian embassy to Jerusalem would be an historic, correct, and moving step.
Thousands of Iranians flooded the streets of Tehran, chanting death to Israel and to the great Satan, America, as they celebrated 39 years since the U.S. embassy was stormed and 52 Americans were taken hostage for 444 days. Tehran hosted a special guest for the celebrations, Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, who brought a delegation of his followers to celebrate the hostile takeover of the U.S. embassy. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei told the crowds that America has been repeatedly defeated by Iran over the past 40 years and that it is weaker now than it was in 1979.
Israeli intelligence has thwarted yet another Iranian terror plot, this time in Denmark. According to reports, the Mossad informed the Danish Security and Intelligence Service that Tehran was planning to assassinate several Iranian expats in the Scandinavian country. Copenhagen recalled its ambassador to Tehran after Danish intelligence announced the arrest of an Iranian assassin.
7 Egyptian Christians were killed and 19 were injured when ISIS terrorists ambushed their bus en route to a monastery. The Christian pilgrims were targeted for their beliefs and also as punishment for their support of Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who has cracked down on Islamic insurgents in the country. The Christians in Egypt claim that they have been targeted by the country's Muslim majority for their faith and are demanding that Cairo take a stronger stance to protect them.
Palestinian Authority leader Mahmoud Abbas and his Fatah party have been standing in the way of a Hamas ceasefire. Egypt has been attempting to negotiate a deal which calls for calm on the Gaza border, but a delegation of Fatah officials went to Cairo to demand that Hamas relinquish its weapons and allow the PA to control the Gaza Strip. The officials said that Egypt is welcome to broker an agreement to restore normalcy, but that a formal ceasefire can only be authorized by Fatah. Life for Israelis living in the Gaza border region has become unbearable. The recent wave of rocket fire and balloon bombs has left many people traumatized. A group of high school students marched to Jerusalem to protest the Hamas violence.
That's right, Erin. Hundreds of Israeli teenagers hiked from their communities near the Gaza border to the Israeli capital last week to raise awareness of their living conditions under the threat of Hamas. The students marched over 90 kilometers, carrying messages of hope and peace, but also explained the dire situation that they're living in under the constant threat of Hamas in Gaza. The terror group has fired dozens of rockets on Israeli civilians and has launched floating incendiary devices that have burned large portions of southern Israel.
The PA and Hamas use brutal torture techniques to quash dissension among the Palestinian people. A human rights group has published a disturbing report on the abusive tactics imposed by the Palestinian Authority and Hamas to keep their people in line. Human Rights Watch released a 149-page report entitled "Two Authorities, One Way, Zero Dissent." The document describes the systematic torture of 147 journalists and activists who were abducted, detained, and subsequently tortured by Hamas or the PA. The watchdog organization said that the systematic practice of torture by Palestinian authorities may amount to a crime against humanity prosecutable at the International Criminal Court.
Ben & Jerry's new ice cream flavor has received a cold reception in Israel. The company recently announced that it is donating proceeds of the newly rebranded Pecan Resist flavor to 4 anti-Trump organizations, including the Women's March, which is organized together with pro-BDS activists and supporters of the virulent anti-Semitic leader of the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan. Israelis were shocked to hear that the wildly popular ice cream brand has taken such a repugnant stance and aligned itself with groups that publicly call for the destruction of the Jewish state. Just as boycott calls began to dominate social media, Ben & Jerry's Israel made a public statement saying that it is an independent Israeli company and that it has no connection to the decisions made by the global brand.
Israel has become a global test site for a driverless electric car service. Volkswagen, Mobileye, and Israel's Champion Motors announced that by next year, they will launch the first ever self-driving ride-hailing service. The 3 companies joined together to form New Mobility in Israel, which will combine technologies from each of the 3 companies to create a seamless rider experience. The state of Israel has agreed to provide the infrastructure needed to test the system, legal and regulatory support, as well as the sharing of traffic data required for the project.
The Israeli cabinet has approved the additional immigration of 1,000 more Ethiopian Jews to Israel. Members of the community believe that they are descendants of the biblical tribe of Dan and that their ancestors were forced to convert to Christianity. They practice Judaism and cling to sacred customs that have been passed down for thousands of years. The Knesset endorsed a plan 3 years ago to bring all the remaining 8,000 Ethiopian Jews to Israel by the year 2020, but budgetary considerations prevented its implementation. Finance Minister Moshe Kachlon praised the cabinet's commitment to welcome more Jewish citizens of Ethiopian descent to the state in recognition that their aliyah helps fulfill the biblical prophecy of the ingathering of the exiles.
Norway mourned the passing of the war hero who foiled Hitler's nuclear ambitions. Joachim Ronenberg was just 23 years old when he was chosen by England's Special Operations Executive to lead a mission to destroy the Norsk hydro plant, where Nazi scientists were producing heavy water. Ronenberg and his team accepted what they believed was a suicide mission after a previous attempt to destroy the plant failed and cost the lives of an Allied commando unit. The daring operation involved parachuting into his native country under Nazi occupation, skiing to the facility, detonating explosives, and fleeing several hundred kilometers to the Swiss border. Operation Gunnerside has been hailed as one of the bravest, most daring missions of World War II, the success of which put a dent in the Nazi war machine. Ronenberg was remembered by Norway's Prime Minister as one of the country's greatest heroes. He was 99 years old.
An Israeli Holocaust institution has announced that it will cease training guides to Poland over the country's recently passed Holocaust law. The Shem Olam Institute announced that it is shifting its focus to the Ukraine in order to reduce the numbers of delegates to Poland. The organization says that the decision is meant to send a clear message of rejection of Poland's interference with the narrative of the Holocaust. We have reported extensively on the legislation which absolves the Polish people of responsibility for the genocide of the Jews in that country. Any mention of Polish complicity in the Holocaust is an offense that carries a fine or jail time. The law has caused a major rift with Israel and backlash from the international Jewish community that accuses Poland of whitewashing its role in the murder of millions of Jews during World War II.
Tens of thousands of Jews traveled to the sacred city of Hebron to mark the death and burial of the biblical matriarch Sarah. Each week, Jews around the world study the same portion of the Bible, and last week's reading was taken from Genesis chapters 23, 24, and 25, known as Chaya Sarah, or the life of Sarah. These chapters describe Abraham's purchase of a field and a cave in Hebron to be used as a burial site for his beloved wife. More than 40,000 Jews traveled to Hebron and camped out over Shabbat to read the biblical description of Sarah's death and burial, and to pray for the biblical matriarch at the cave of the Machpelah.
Celebrities and philanthropists donned their evening gowns and tuxedos and headed out to the 12th annual Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces Gala in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles. The star-studded event began with a moment of silence for the 11 Jews murdered during Shabbat services in a Pittsburgh synagogue. The event, hosted by Israeli-American entertainment magnate Chaim Saban, raised a record $60 million for Israeli soldiers.
A new exhibit in Jerusalem's Old City displays the Christian connection to the land of Israel. Located on the Via Dolorosa, the Terra Sancta Museum has opened its newly renovated archaeological wing and is displaying artifacts from Israel during the Second Temple period when Jesus walked the streets of Jerusalem. The relics, which were collected by Franciscan friars, tell the story of Jerusalem under Roman occupation, and according to the museum director, Father Eugenio Aliata, the artifacts show the connection that Jesus had to the land of Israel.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful sunny day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Sheila Raviv. She's a member of the board of the Karen Yuri Stern, the Yuri Stern Foundation. Sheila, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Sheila, tell our viewers a little about what is the Yuri Stern Foundation.
The Yuri Stern Foundation is a group of volunteers who give holistic treatments to cancer patients and their families, free, gratis, in order to ease their passage through treatment or if something worse happens.
Yuri Stern was a member of the Knesset. He was the founder of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus,
Yes.
a real hero to relations between Jews and Christians. Why did you decide to establish the center in his honor to help with cancer patients?
Well, it was his widow, Lena, who established it, and I'm very proud that she invited me to join the board. She did so because during Yuri's illness, she and a group of friends helped to ease his passage, to make him calm, even though he knew that he wasn't going to get better. And through that, they formed the foundation and the 150 volunteers.
So what kind of impact does it have on the actual cancer patients, the fact that there's this holistic help that they're getting?
The effect surprised me. I knew that it would help them through the treatments. I knew that it would help the families help them through the treatments. But it's so much more because, as one patient said to me when I visited her, she said, suddenly I'm just a person. I lay on the table, I have the treatment, and I'm just a person. Don't have cancer, not a patient, and not trying to be brave for my family.
And where are they finding the patients? Where do they do these treatments, and who can get this free treatment?
Patients are virtually all in Shaarei Tzedek Hospital itself, in the oncology department, which is quite exceptional, and it sounds strange, but it's a very happy place. It's a place where people can get better. And most of the patients are from there. Unfortunately, patients from other hospitals have to come up by word of mouth. There is also a small clinic, but you pay a very minimal amount in order to get treatments. And if someone doesn't have the money, they can repair the taps in the kitchen or do some work like that, because it makes them feel better if they're giving back.
You know, you are helping thousands of patients a year. Who is funding this? How are you getting the money for this, and how do you operate?
Basically from donations. There is a little bit from the Ministry of Health, but it's minimal. very wonderful people that have either been through cancer themselves. Cancer touches virtually everybody, and so people come and they give money or time or help to raise funds in order to run the foundation, which is on minimal because most of the people are volunteers.
So run us through exactly what happens with the patient. They come to the clinic and what really goes on.
They come to the clinic, mostly they're coming in to have their treatments, to have their chemotherapy. They will stop either during the chemotherapy or before or after. They go to a wonderful little place where everyone has their cubicle and they receive whatever treatment is appropriate. Understand that the treatments are not like a normal reflexology. The treatments are specific to cancer patients because you're trying to calm down the body's reactions rather than raise the body's reactions. And it's quite phenomenal to watch what happens.
And are you getting a lot of positive feedback from these treatments? Are people saying, that this is something that's been very helpful for me?
Not only from the patients, but from the doctors, be it Professor Czerny or be it Dr. Ora Rosengarten, who's one of the doctors there. And Ora says time and again, the patients respond to their chemo much better. They have less sickness, they're stronger, and emotionally it helps them. And of course it helps the families hugely.
Is this something that's just happening in Israel, or are you seeing this trend all over the world?
To an extent all over the world, but not with the volunteers such as at Shaare Zedek. The volunteers are quite exceptional people, and they give an hour and a half of their time every week just because they love the patients.
What is the future of the Care and Yuri Stern, of Yuri Stern Foundation? What do you think is going to happen, 5-10 years down the road?
I believe that the understanding that holistic treatment helps enormously with the patients and with the families, and therefore through the families to support the patients. And I think it's going to be understood far more deeply. The medical profession is more and more accepting of holistic treatment, of complementary treatment. And therefore we're hoping that the love of the volunteers is going to spread throughout Israel, and who knows, maybe throughout the world.
Tell us about the patients. Are they religious? Are they secular? Are they Jews? Are they non-Jews?
Every variety, the full rainbow of Jerusalem, and in fact the full rainbow of Israel. There are Arabs, there are Jews, there are Christians, there are Druze. Everybody, when somebody's sick, it doesn't matter. And by the way, that's true of the medical staff as well. The doctors and the nurses are also a wonderful mixture of Israeli society.
Our viewing audience is mostly Christians. If they want to get involved and help, do they have an opportunity to help, or is it something more local here in Israel?
Of course Christians can give. Christians are often the patients as well. You can give through the website, which it's going to be on the screen now, and we appreciate every penny. It can be a little, it can be a lot, and obviously a lot is better than a little, but each to their ability.
Sheila, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
That with love and with determination, which Lena has, she's built an ability to help patients. She's built something we can all be proud of. And also with Professor Czerny, who was accepting of the idea that not everything has to be scientific. It's just helped thousands and thousands of families.
Thank you, Sheila, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hassod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Keren HaYesod. I'm Greg Maisel, Director General of Keren HaYesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Even before the creation of the State of Israel, Keren HaYesod worked hard with the Friends of Israel to bring home our sons and daughters. Watch this amazing story about how together we saved a Jewish community from Iraq.
In 1947, the United Nations took a historic vote to establish a Jewish state. But Jews who had lived peacefully for centuries in neighboring Arab countries became a target for violent retribution, especially the 150,000 proud Jews of Iraq. In response, the Zionist movement launched its most daring operation. Shlomo Hillel, who would later become an Israeli government minister and world chairman of Keren HaYesod UIA, was recruited to plan an operation which would save Iraqi Jews and bring them back to their ancient homeland.
אחרי שנה של שליחות בעיראק, אני חזרתי די מאוכזב וטענתי שאנחנו לא עושים די. ויום אחד בא אליי מישהו והוא אומר לי, אתה כל הזמן מתלונן שאנחנו לא עושים די, תבוא מחר לחיפה, ישנם שני טייסים אמריקנים שהיו גיבורי מלחמה במלחמת העולם השנייה, והם שמעו שהם יכולים פה להציע את השירות שלהם, לגמרי תכליתיים. אפשר לנסוע לבגדד, יש מקומות במדבר לחנות. אני אומר, כל עיראק זה מדבר אחד גדול. אוקיי, אז בוא ניסע. הכביש שיוצא מבגדד, מצד אחד יש בו שדה התעופה, מצד שני מחנה צבאי גדול. כלומר, שאני פה צריך להיזהר מאוד, יש גדר בכל שדה תעופה. אז ראינו באיזה מקום שהגדר קצת חלשה. באמת מגיע המטוס, מתחיל להניע את הפרופלרים ברעש נורא, והיום מדליק את הפרוז'קטורים כדי לעבר את המגדל הפיקוח שבתוך שדה התעופה, ואנחנו מתחילים להעלות את האנשים.
The pilots then took off and aimed the nose of their Kurdish Commando aircraft westward, home to Zion.
אז ברגע שעזבנו את שדה התעופה של בגדד בשלום, הייתה כמובן הרגשת הנחת רווחה, יצאנו בשלום. אבל האמת שזה עדיין לא הסוף. שכבו והחזיקו אחד בשני בידיים, ואנחנו עוברים את רמת הגולן, ופתאום אני רואה את הכנרת כחול. ואני כבר רואה מרחוק את יבניאל, ורואה שתי מדורות, ואז ישר הטייס בלי לעשות סיבובים בין שתי המדורות האלה נוחת.
Within minutes, the new immigrants had been spirited away to local communities, many pioneered by Keren HaYesod, to begin their new lives in the home of their ancestors. From 1951 to 1952, around 120,000 were flown to Israel in operations Ezra and Nehemiah, named after the biblical prophets of ancient Babylon. With the help of Keren HaYesod, these immigrants built new lives. They became leaders of Israeli industry, politics, and the military. Operation Michaelberg also demonstrated that Jews would return to Zion, whatever the circumstances. As the Jewish state celebrates its 70th year, Israel can be proud that time and again it has plucked Jews from danger to safety. All of this can be tracked back to Shlomo Hillel and two brave American pilots. Today, many more Jews dream of returning to their homelands to play their own part in the miracle which is the State of Israel. Keren HaYesod is at the heart of these efforts. Jeremiah promised, "Your children will return to their borders."
Join Keren HaYesod in celebrating Israel's 70th anniversary by donating only $70 a month to help fund Aliyah. Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
The removal by the State Department of the word occupied in referring to Judea and Samaria, the territories liberated by Israel in the 1967 war, often referred to in the world as the West Bank, is an event of great diplomatic, legal, and spiritual significance. Diplomatically, it goes back to the 1947 Partition Resolution and the creation of the State of Israel on May 14, 1948. The Arabs rejected the Partition Resolution, and the Arab state that was to have come into being in what was then known as the West Bank was prohibited from actually emerging. And so, under international law, and even as international law was interpreted by the Johnson administration in 1967, those territories could not be occupied because they never belonged to a sovereign state. Jordan, which unilaterally annexed those areas between 1948 and 1967, that annexation was never deemed legal by any countries in the world other than by Great Britain and Pakistan. So Israel never occupied anything in Judea and Samaria in the West Bank. Now that's an important point as the world condemns Israel for illegal building in that area, for an occupation. None of that, none of those charges have basis in diplomacy or in legality. Spiritually, perhaps even more significantly, if you look in the Bible, Haifa is not in the Bible, Tel Aviv is not in the Bible, but the cities in Judea and Samaria are emphatically well in the Bible. They are Hebron, Bethlehem, Jericho, and of course Jerusalem. These are the cradles of Jewish civilization. These are the tribal land of the Jewish people. No Jewish person can be called to be said to be occupied his or her own homeland, and no Jewish state so constituted can tell a Jew that he or she cannot live in their ancestral homeland.
Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Anti-Semitism threatens many of the Jews. We must rescue them before the window of opportunity slams shut. Bless Israel by supporting Keren Hayesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let us bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Erin Viner.
And I'm Rebecca Rand reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.